Welcome back to Vinyl Community Social Club. On the panel, we got Chris, the Groove Seeker, Joel, Static ATX. Welcome everybody in the chat here. We'll wait a little bit. Let's see here. While we're waiting people to fill in, we'll read some comments. Why not? Arnie Zanzibar, welcome. Record stores aren't necessary when you've got PayPal friends and promos for positive comments. Ouch.
Oof. That's the first comment of the night?
Yes, it's a burn.
Damn, Arnie. Damn, Arnie.
Arnie ain't holding back. Welcome, Fred. VGR, buying records online is stale and boring. Record stores are everything. Yes. I think with the right environment, right? The record store can introduce you and influence you. Boot Trader, welcome. I agree with VGR. I have to buy some of the records online because of the loss of most of my vision and not being able to drive. I do get an Uber and spend 6 hours in stores because I love it. That's true. I must do the same thing at Waterloo. They must think I'm crazy. I don't think I've ever told Joel this. Like when I am there, I'm picking up records, going to the listening station, listening, and then sometimes laughing and smirking to myself. Right? And sometimes I'm like looking the price, listening to the record, and I'm like, this is where this doesn't meet up. Like the price, the condition, like I don't know who priced this, who graded this.
I've seen him in the wild. When we were at Infinity, Jason told me 5 times he was ready to go. And then I turned around and he was back in another section. I was like, I guess we'll stay.
Just so you know, that gives record sellers a lot of paranoia.
Really?
When people do that. Yeah, so it happens at the record convention a lot, where people will be like thumbing through the bins and they'll sit there and they'll like talk to each other and they'll laugh and they'll just like, and you wonder like, what are they laughing at? Like, is it unrelated or are they unhappy with the prices? There's a PSA from a record seller to the general public who watches this video. If you have a problem with the price, we're not sensitive. Just talk to us. Just tell me you're interested in the record, but the price seems high. Don't just laugh and then walk away. I mean, do that if you want, but
Okay, well, Joel, I've gotten to know you. This would work, but I'm pretty sure now. Let me see here. Should I be honest here, or should I just not mention the name of the store? Should we go full throat?
It's up to you. You do what you got to do.
Groove Seeker, should I just go full throttle here? Like, should we?
Man, get the people what they want, bro.
Okay, so Joel, I'm just gonna let this go right now. Let me look at this. Before I get to Vinyl Piper's, cry out here. Shout out to Vinyl Piper. When I go to a certain record store, it's called Tones. When I try to argue about the price, you know what happens? Dude points to their, mediocre, listening record player, which is probably a step above the Crosley. And, man, like a step above the Crosley is not good enough to judge that record, And they've never budged on the price for me. Never.
So it definitely happens, right? Some sellers aren't going to be open to it. We got to quickly talk to Dom about the noise. You got to tell him to do the thing that you told me to do. Do you hear the buzz? Just go into the settings and turn the echo cancellation and the other setting.
Well, you may be hearing my air conditioning, which is I think going to mellow out in a second.
Okay.
So
it's like 100 degrees.
Do you want me to turn it off for him or turn it on, Joel? The echo cancellation. I can do it.
I would turn it on because I can hear the. Oh, there we go. Now it's gone.
I thought it was the humdinger.
You still hear it
going on.
It's better.
Now it's good now.
Yeah, it sounded
Yeah,
like you're driving through a wind tunnel.
It's gonna mellow out. It's good because I have like this forced air that goes throughout the whole house, and it's just loud as shit. So, but it works, man. It works. So it's gonna go off in a second. So,
Right on. Well, back to what Jason was saying, there are some sellers that aren't open to it, and it's real simple. I stopped shopping with them. But there are other sellers like me that just talk to me, because listen, you don't get it right all the time, and sometimes we have a fair price on there, but it's just higher than what you want to pay. It could be any number of things, but it doesn't hurt to talk if you want the actual record. If you just want to laugh at the seller for their absurd prices, then do that too. But if you want the record, talk to them, I would say. Because I have gotten paranoid about people doing that. You know what I mean? Because I've had some ridiculous things on there. Every once in a while, it happens. I could give you examples, but it's not that important.
But not at my favorite store that I mentioned, right? They're gonna.
Yeah.
If they watch this, I'm done.
I haven't been to Antone's in a minute, but yeah, I haven't been there in a minute.
What's worse than higher prices is when Jason goes to the listening station and it doesn't work. It's not a pretty sight. It's like the Incredible Hulk came out.
They never work.
Like, what is this?
That's why shout out to Breakaway. 2 listening stations, Techniques, 1200. Come on. 2 amplifier headphone, I think headphone preamp or something. Good
God.
Headphones. Talk about.
They're nuts. My God.
Hudson Valley
Customer
Vinyl's like
service,
that.
right?
Hudson Valley Vinyl's got a decent table, a good headphone amp. Not a 1200, but they have a listening station, which is always
stuff gets trashed, man. It gets trashed. But good for them for having the good gear.
Yes, I mean that's it. How do I say it, Dom? It warms my heart.
Warms the coggles of your heart. Yes.
But at the same time, you have to feel for store owners when people are like tearing up the record players and stuff. Imagine but they have, obviously Breakaway has like hookups that people that can fix them up.
Sure.
But
yes.
most stores probably can't, maybe afford a couple 1200s with a tube amp and all that stuff.
I would just keep the cheapest stylus that you can on there. Just make sure it's fresh, because those just get destroyed all the time. I mean, as long as it's in good shape and new, like it's not going to fuck anything up. So, but yeah, I've seen some really amazing people trying to operate a turntable in the most strange ways you could imagine. Just, sometimes you watch and see how far, how far can they go with this? And you're like, then at some point you have to intervene. Like, okay, please stop. Like, you just have to push that button. That's it.
Well, I mean, I know that Breakaway, they have like rules, like only 10 minutes, that you're supposed to spend, I think Waterloo says don't adjust the anti-skate, right? Or the lever, right? Or the weight, It's not like, I'm pretty sure they would trust me if I did it myself, but that's just maybe that's too much work, right? I think you would laugh, right? If I was trying to balance the tone arm and, you'd laugh if I brought that VTA, that device that Fremert shows or whatever. It's like, what the hell is that? It's like also used to check earthquakes. Just kidding.
I like this guy. Go full DJ Qbert on the listening.
I know. I was dying. That was funny.
That's good.
I saw a guy bring acoustic room treatments to the listening station once.
Really?
Just kidding. No, just kidding.
That's good. That's great. That's preparedness. That's preparedness, like Boy Scouts.
Let me get through the comments. So welcome, Dom. Let me get through this. We do have another guest other than Dom. He had decided to partake in this and cause some trouble.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, wow.
It's John Bong.
Wait, he's got the echo going on.
I think Bong's got to turn his YouTube down.
Can't blame me this time.
I don't have any. Oh, because I was streaming the other way. Wait, let me change the settings. Yeah. When I stream, because I have the other thing put on the other mic. All right. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
All right.
Should I? Well, you know what? Should I just go through the comments, or should we just get straight into it? Groove Seeker, what should we do?
I think we should get straight into it. I think the comments are going to be pretty fluid tonight.
Okay.
What a panel. Let's talk about the panel first. Look at this
Yes.
all-star cast we have tonight.
Ooh, sweaty.
It is hot as balls here right now.
New York's on fire right now.
Yeah. Not in
And
a
it's
good way.
humid.
How hot is it over there right now?
Too hot for New Yorkers.
Up here is like over 100 with humidity.
Damn.
Yeah.
I was at like 95 all day with like.
Well, here's like
heat.
it's like 30.
I think it feels like 105 or something. It was bad.
Yeah.
So
I
on
don't
the
know how
panel,
much
we got
30 degrees
Go ahead.
is in Fahrenheit.
Do you
86.
need?
Mhm.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, go ahead. No.
Let's go it. Groove Seeker, go.
So on the panel, we got, are we Jose or John tonight? I don't know. Let us know. We got, of course, Joel, ATX.
Oh.
We got Dom from Seeking a Thread, our host, Jason Rojas. I'm the Groove Seeker. We got so we do have Jose Moreno Ron tonight. Okay, that's good to know. Good to know.
Mhm.
I don't even know how to change my. Oh, I see it now.
Don't change, Jose. You're good the way you
Don't
are.
ever change.
Yeah, don't ever change. Tonight is an inspired topic that I got to give credit to Joel and Jason on. This was really their bag, and I support it. But maybe Joel, give us a good overview of what kind of inspired you to bring this up after last Monday's stream.
Well, I mean, it started with your comment, but obviously, you know, about a year ago, I started a record store kind of as an experiment, and I'm kind of fascinated. I'm fascinated by the topic of record stores. You know, I've been a fan, worked in many of them, spent countless hours in them, and I'm constantly struggling with this topic of, are record stores still necessary? Because, you know, with the internet and everything like that, you know, it just makes me wonder.
So we're looking for, number one, are they relevant to us? Right. I think we have to all express that. Number two is, how do we compete with keeping them relevant if we want them relevant? I think that's a lot of the struggle we have, right? And I think we all have very unique experiences working in them, shopping in them, spending time in them. So it's going to be a pretty passionate discussion. Start with Jose, our guest of the evening. Jose, what's your take on record stores? Do you think they're relevant and necessary in the modern market we have?
Well, I love going to record stores in general. It's you know, I think most of the time, because of the music I collect, I really enjoy going with an open mind that I want to find something that I'm not particularly familiar with, or that I am, you know, that I'm not used to seeing, blah blah blah. Living here in Latin America, it's a little different because I know what I'm probably gonna find, you know, what genres, what artists, blah blah blah. But I will say that something like it doesn't matter where you're from, where I see the irrelevance of record stores, if you want to like bring that type of subject, is I think most stores nowadays, they want to have whatever it's new, whatever's popular, and sometimes it just feels like the curation of records, it's more and more generic, because, you know, keeping up with whatever trend or whatever newer records, even if it's like like indie store exclusives or whatever, I still feel that most stores right now have like too big of a gap between like used records. With it used to be like used records used to be a bad thing, and now I see it like, if I see a store that's more used records, I'm more likely to go and like try to find something, because all the other records, you know, you go to Discogs and you see like people selling it for like $2 more than wholesale price, just because they want to, like, you know, be the store that sold it. But so I don't. That's something weird, I guess. I've seen people, like, even when I'm in Waterloo. Last time when I was in Waterloo, I remember looking at people taking photos of records because they're not going to buy them. They were just taking photos, getting the information, and then going about their way and just like trying to listen to them on Spotify or whatever. And I have a friend here that does that as well. He just like takes photos, streams the record, and rarely buys it, which is bizarre. You know, it does make a point that it is necessary, because it's a way of, you know, discovering music in general. But I don't think they are necessary if they keep the trend of continuing just getting whatever, you know, like Amazon basic titles. I know there are certain titles a record store has to have: Dark Side of the Moon, Rumors, whatever the fuck that is. But if that's all you have, I don't like it. So if you have a store and that's all you have because that's what normally people want to buy, like fuck you, basically. Like, at least get
There
like
it is. There it is.
you know, at least get like an 80s Dark Side of the Moon, or like you know, something weird. Don't fucking give me the easy reissue. You know,
Well, it's easy to order
but
that.
for the most part,
Easy to order
I enjoy record stores.
Well, Jose, you're hitting on something that we're going to come back
I guess.
to, as an important topic, as far as what has to anchor that store. But Dom, given your run in this hobby and this obsession and your time in record stores, what's your take on the role of the record store and how essential it is for you?
Well, it's obviously essential for people like us who this is like all we do. But for the average person out there who's like casually into records or casually into music, no, it's probably irrelevant to them. They can order from wherever they want if they're ordering anything. You know, I would say that those people might discover not only some music they don't know, but they might actually meet a friend or a partner by going into such a store. And it's a marketplace of ideas. You know, it's a place where people meet. It's a place where people can kind of exchange ideas. So, I mean, I think overall, yes, the answer is yes, they are. A lot of people, I would think, would say, I don't need that in my life. I would argue you do, but I could see where people come from who are just casually into music and buy like 3 records a year, or I like what Jose said. I see that shit all the time. People, like, when I was working in the record store, be like, oh, what's this? Like, oh, it's the new Charlie Maguire reissue. Like, what do you think? They're like, oh, this is amazing. But oh, it's $23.99. Like, great, snap a photo. And like, that was awesome. Which is, not everybody has that money. So I get that. But yeah, I think it's still an essential place to sort of find out about these things, because the internet's a goddamn mess. And, there's just there's just too much coming at you all the time. So going into a place that's a little more focused, hopefully, sometimes record stores are a mess too, as you know, I think is a great thing. So we're in a good time where they're coming more and more, and stores are opening up more and more. So we're in a good period for that.
I like your description with the marketplace of ideas, because I can't imagine how much less I would know about music if I didn't work in a music store for a long time and like meet friends that worked in music stores. It was like, yeah, like you said, like the internet's available, but it's not the same experience. Like that discussion, like turning somebody onto something or them turning you onto something, it's priceless, man. It's priceless. It's a great experience. For me, go ahead, Tom.
No, I was just going to say, when someone recommends something to you and you actually are like, this is not only is this really good, but it's like essential to me, and I wouldn't have known about it without this conversation. Like, that's a pretty powerful experience, really. So
Yeah, and it brings me to another, and I don't want to go too far ahead in what we're going to talk about, but this is going to go in a lot of different directions. But the store is the staff. People think like the store is the records, and I think that's an important piece, but the store is really the staff. It's those people that when they see you in a section or you bring up a record, like they confirm your purchase, like, hey, you like this? Do you know this? You know, have you tried this yet? Oh, I just listened to this record. Like that's so key. And I think
it is.
I think there's a lot of things that force that from happening. A lot of it might be like labor related or like overhead related to have like a store well staffed. But that's something I've noticed over the years that's gotten less and less. Like you walk into a store, there's two people, you know, they know their shit, and they're just preoccupied like doing other things to keep the store running. So you don't always get that social engagement.
Yeah, it goes both ways. Sometimes a bad staff will really make a good store, you know, not great.
I will add that that's, to me, something that's very, very crucial, because there's a lot of people that work at record stores that know music, which is fine. But what I really want from a record store, someone who works at a record store, I want them to know about records, which is two different things, you know? Because, again, if it's used records, I want to know why that pressing they have there might be good. Why is that like a harder to get record, or someone that might be interested? Because sometimes I go to record stores and they show me a reissue like marked up like $20 more than on whatever Discogs. And because they don't really know anything about the record, the pressing, blah, 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 sometimes it's a good thing, right? They fuck up and you get a good title, earlier pressing for better pricing because they don't know. But most of the time, I think it would be nice if somebody could actually know a little bit about vinyl records, which is, at least here in Latin America, most of the times people know about music. Like, oh, I know that band, but they don't know like why this reissue is different from this one, or blah blah blah, which is where I sometimes lose interest talking with someone at a record store, when, you know, it's just like I'm not getting any new info, you know.
I think that the gap in the hobby and the resurgence probably played a part in that. I don't think there was continuity in the knowledge being passed down. I think that's few and far between. Like if you're of a certain age and you're working in a music store now, you may not have gotten that mentorship or that experience to learn from others. So you're bringing up a valid point. I've dealt with that before.
I'd say by and large, I think that's a great point. Is most of the stores I've been into, I'm curious to what everyone thinks. Is like they'll tell you all kinds of data or facts about obscure stuff, but when it comes to like pressings, when it comes to like, what is this, a first pressing, second pressing, you know, what country is this from, all that kind of stuff, I feel like there's definitely still a shortage of people that are really like in depth of that kind of thing, from what I've seen.
You guys got to be fair, though. Come on, these record stores.
I guess so, but
I'm not saying. I actually, yeah, totally. I think that's a rare thing to find, is someone that's really totally geeked out in that sort of thing to be. And absolutely, I think it's true. Like you can't expect to find that in every store.
Yeah.
Joel, you're probably the most passionate person I met on this topic, in a fantastic way. Like what is it? What does the store mean to you, and the relevance of the store mean to you in this?
Well, it's a lot of what everyone is saying, right? Like so many moments of music discovery. Like one of my all-time favorite artists, I discovered her completely on accident just by going to a record store and seeing the cover. You know what I mean? And you know, music discovery is, I think, something that streaming hasn't figured out. The algorithms that Spotify and all the other apps use sucks. It's really good at like telling you about the same stuff to listen to over and over again, but it's really hard to discover something new. It's also really good at like telling you an album, artist you like is releasing a new album, but again, not about a new artist that you don't know. You know, so record stores are really good for that. But yeah. That's basically it.
And it
But
helps
you
when you
brought
meet
up a.
someone.
But
I was going to say it helps when you meet someone at the staff that knows your taste too, and they can
yeah,
actually recommend something that makes sense.
that's a really good point. Okay, so we'll get into like what actually inspired me. I've been wanting to talk about this topic for months for various reasons, but the thing that actually spawned it last week was Chris was talking to me about a new album that's coming out, and I told him I wanted to look it up to see if I could order it from a distributor, and I think it's an Afro-funk album. Is that how you describe it? It's kind of Afro.
Yeah, Afrobeat. Yeah.
Um, and that's not a style of music that I know very well. It's not a style of music that I carry in my store, because the stuff that I carry in my store is stuff that I know. Right, every record in there is a record that I know, and I just don't know that style of music. When so I was telling Chris I'm happy to order it for you, and I did, but I started to think about it. I would rather get that album from a store that has someone there that knows that music, right? Because they're probably going to have other records of that style of music as well. This is why I think, like, you look at, the store owners that know jazz really well, and they do videos, and everyone knows they know, or at least they act like they know jazz, right? So if you're into jazz, you want to go buy from them because you're going to get recommendations, right? If you look at my store and you see this kind of stuff that I carry, if you're into that kind of music, then you're going to want to come back, because I can tell you all kinds of things. I can go to the ends of the earth telling you about that kind of music. So that's kind of what started it.
Yeah. And, Jason, so we've all had the pleasure of seeing you in action in a store. It's a fun experience. What does the record store experience mean to you currently?
Get out of my way, John fucking Bong. That's what it means. No.
Hey, John Bong doesn't even live this side of the world, so he can't buy it anyway.
This is funny.
He's not even real.
When I go to a record store, I go to the new arrivals immediately. That's what I do. I flip it real fast. I don't think Dom ever saw me flipping through records super fast at WFMU.
Do you flip like Stunty does? Like,
no,
like,
no. Actually, when that happened at there we go. When that happened,
I'm slow, man.
At Den Bosch, like, I felt like I was not fast enough. Right, I was standing next to Stunty the Roadrunner, and I was like the turtle. I was, man, the hell's going on?
Well,
like
I've seen you flip through 45s, which I have no patience for 7 inches, and I've seen Jason like patiently looking at the fucking thing. I can't do that shit.
The best I saw was Ian Mackay when he came here, and he was at Angry Mom, and he flipped just like that fast, but really exaggerated high pulling, so the records are almost coming out of the bins, and he's just really doing this, like almost like he's trying to juggle. And he went through that new Rivals bin in like 3 minutes. It was
Really?
pretty hilarious.
Well,
And then he pulled out a
he
Yellow
knows-
Man record, and he's like, "I want this Yellow Man."
Well, he knows that if he fucks up and mess up the record, nobody's gonna tell him anything.
No. We were all just like,
Yeah, you could probably sell it like, oh, yeah, Mackay like broke that record.
yeah, right.
Oh, it's-
I mean,
was
what you
$5,
just
now it's 15.
what you said, it does remind me of seeing Tom Verlaine, rest in peace, at WFMU. I don't know if you've ever seen him there, Dom. I saw him
I
there,
don't think so.
and I was like looking at him, and then he pulled out a magnifying glass, and
Nice.
then he was like looking at the records, and then I was gonna talk to him, and I was like, nah, dude, I can't talk to a dude's pulling out magnifying glass, even if it's if it wasn't Tom Verlaine. I was just like, dude, that's hardcore. I don't do that. Like, what the fuck?
But he was looking at the. It could have been like a glass. Was he looking at the grooves or like the record itself?
Doesn't matter. You
It
can't
doesn't
interrupt.
matter.
Yeah, he's like
It-
full concentration.
I mean, again, like,
Yeah.
should I do it? I gotta do it. I mean, he was totally like, just like, I was just like, what the hell, dude? Like, what the?
You should have helped him. Like, let me help you, Tom.
Right.
Maybe he's just trying to make the type bigger. He's looking at the label.
Shit.
His eyesight problems. That's the thing.
I think I flip records fast as well, but because again, living here, you already know. Like I already know what most record stores have, so I go through like 80% of the same records every time I go to the record stores. So like I already know the fuck. Like if I see like a record that I don't remember seeing there, then I'll slowly go like searching something. But most of the times I know. Yeah.
Have you guys ever like found a store? Maybe you're traveling and you just go to the new arrivals bin and then you just walk out. Have you ever done that?
If there's no time, I mean.
No, I mean like judge. I'm talking about judging the store. Like,
Oh.
I don't need to dig.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
I will say I won't leave, but if I'm digging through the new arrivals bin and they just have one of an album that's like legendary, was something I really want, that's the most painful thing because now I know I have to go digging through everything to find if they have one more.
Well, if I go to a store and I see like if I arrive and I see Guns N' Roses and Def Leppard, I'm not even fucking setting a foot inside that shit.
What?
I'm like,
dude, you're a hater, man. What the hell?
Hey, which Guns N' Roses, man?
I hate Guns N' Roses more than I hate the fact that cancer exists.
But how much was the Guns N' Roses record? Good price.
Oh, well, it depends. Like if I see the spaghetti incident, I might go inside because I'm like, well, they probably have. Why the hell do they have? Because I don't know. Because it's like most people that tell me that they like Guns N' Roses, they only like one or two records. You know, so if they have more than that and they are advertising it, it's probably because they have something that I might have not seen. You know.
Wait, does Guns N' Roses have more than two records?
Yes, I probably even know all the titles. I probably know all the titles for some weird reason.
But you won't go into the store.
My pet peeve with new arrivals is
if
the stores that just.
What were you saying, Doug?
My pet peeve with new arrivals, as Jose's for, is the stores that just throw anything, like whatever the next thing they got that's priced into the bins, like it's not curated. Like I don't like going through new arrivals and seeing like, Foreigner, Temptations, like Alabama. No.
What is your deal with Alabama?
That's what comes to mind.
You mentioned Alabama more than anyone I've ever known.
I know, it's true. It's true. I don't know what it is. Something about the letter A comes up, and anyway. But no, I like when stores actually curate like interesting picks for the new arrivals, not just like whatever bullshit rock records they have for $5. I don't know if
that's exactly what.
Well, then it's not new arrivals, right?
Yes, because all that stuff should just go out into the rock with all the other $5 albums. I like that's the way
exactly
I prefer.
What I'm saying. If you see a Def Leppard record and like a Steely Dan record, which I own a lot of the Steely Dan records, for whatever reason, I'm not gonna be as curious, as if I'm like in a random place. I found like I think one of the best stores that I've been to was like a pop-up shop in Athens, Georgia, when I was like a day there, and I don't remember the name of the store. I probably have like a ticket or something that said one of those records, but they had like a bunch of bullshit records, and then they had like a collection that somebody had brought in, and I got a bunch of good records, and I normally don't do it, but again, if I'm at a brick and mortar store and I see the first thing that I see is Dark Side of the Moon 2016 edition, I know I'm not gonna find anything that
Well, it also depends on what they have. It depends on what every store is as good as the last collection they got. So if they're not getting good stuff, but they just got a bunch of metal, and that's what they put out,
So Dom, you just made a great statement there, and it kind of ties back to something that Jose brought up, and I'm going to kind of blend the two ideas here. the record stores are competing with the internet, the big box retailers, the bigger record store retailers for new releases. And to me, the anchor in these stores is the used section, right? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, are you going to stores to buy, like, let's say there's a common reissue, a Blue Note tone or a Strata East, reissue that came out. Are you going to the store to buy that, guys? Are you going direct to consumer? Are you going to the band site? Like, what's that experience like? Because I feel like it's where record stores are making a mistake. They're trying to stock that stuff and move it, and it's too saturated.
Wait, why am I writing like Jason on the chat? By the way, that was me saying that I wrote Shannon.
What?
I don't know what the fuck is going on. Yeah, I'm trying to write, and it's your logo that I look. I'm gonna.
Because you got to switch. You have to switch. Did you sign up?
I don't know where to switch. You just wrote PP. See?
Oh,
confusing.
Groove Seeker, before we keep going, sorry, Dom, to interrupt. Let me just get through this chat. You mind?
Sure.
Let's answer some of this. Welcome, Paul, Breakfast King. I generally buy new titles directly from the artists and labels from Soundome. Now, see, Paul here, right? Knowledgeable shopper, right? He's doing it proactive, right?
Yeah, because the thing is,
hey, Brian?
What typically happens is artists or labels will announce their new album online. They'll make it available to pre-order before a store can even see it in the distributor portal. So the hardcore fans are all going to typically go directly to the artist or the label, simply because the store doesn't even have it up yet.
What do you think of, Joel, what do you think of Terry's comment? Shout out to Tab Records.
Well, we were talking about it in chat. I told him he needs to lend his crate full of whipped cream and other delights so I can put it in my store. That way he doesn't leave.
Oh my gosh.
Because I have 0 copies of that album in my store.
Really?
Yeah.
What record?
Whipped cream. Your favorite artist, Herb Albert?
Just so everybody in the chat knows, I'm making notes and I'm changing my store tomorrow based on everyone's notes. I already have no Guns N' Roses, no Def Leppard. I must have whipped cream and other delights. Please keep giving them to me.
Alabama.
You must have a Bill Cosby record way in the back, like way in the back. Gathering dust. That's a must. And then when somebody points it out, you're like, what the fuck is that shit going on?
We were joking about that at the record convention because I did have some Bill Cosby records, and we couldn't even give them away. We were trying to give them away, and no one would take them.
Wow.
I actually shipped a record, a Discogs sale that I had, and I had, for whatever reason, I had like 4 copies of the same Woody Allen record. And I shipped it just with one because, I didn't have cardboard things, right? And I put one of those. I didn't have one of these. And the person wrote to me like, why the fuck you put this piece of shit record? I'm like, just throw it in the trash. Like, I don't know. It's just a free record. I just put it on to prevent damage on the other record. I got people getting angry for that shit. Damn. But you can have one. Put it in the back. But no Guns N' Roses. Unless it's the
spaghetti incident. Wow.
Because of the Charles Manson cover, then that's it.
Shout out to the Wolfman over here. He says, when a shop owner starts talking to me, I can't get out of there fast enough. Ouch.
Damn.
Well,
it's a balancing act, right?
You have to have those Johnny Mitchell 80s records nobody sells.
Does the Wolfman wear his mask while he's in the store? Maybe that's why.
He used to have another mask, and it was all fucked up, so he had to buy a new one.
Oof.
It was probably full of spit inside.
Let me
Um,
get through some of the comments here real quick. Welcome, Bill K. When I first started collecting, found a new record store, became friends with the owner. The dollar bins were my best friends for a long time, and I had fun collecting. So you did it right, Bill K. You did it right. Welcome, Chasing Records. It's really great when you go to a record store and the staff asks you what you like and can actually recommend something good for you to try out based off what you say. There we go. That's brilliant, right? I think some of this is to answer what Dom was saying earlier, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm a little late on the comments here. Let me just fast forward here. Welcome, Dave, the pickup artist. What's the funniest thing you've seen in someone's medicine cabinet? Well, when I was on tour, maybe I can't tell that story. Another time. It's probably not fair. Welcome, Arnaldo. This is the one I wanted to highlight here. Don't go record shopping with Jason Rojas. You will put back the stack of records you picked.
Is that so you can take the ones that you're putting back?
No, because he's because I questioned Arnaldo, like, hey, are you really gonna listen to that? And then he's like, what does that mean? Like, well, I mean, do you like this band? He's like, what does that mean? I'm like, well, I mean, you're about to spend hundreds of dollars on this. I'm just asking if it's gonna be,
Damn.
you know, you're gonna play it again.
You're more Jewish than I am. That's
Oh my gosh.
I think so much when I'm gonna buy a record, like you have no idea. Like I think about it like half an hour before I decide if I'm gonna buy it, because I'm sick of like buying records I'm not gonna listen to, even if it's a rare record. If I'm not gonna listen to it, you can go eat shit. I'm not gonna buy it.
Damn, dude, you're harsh. You're like, he's going to the owner, throwing his face, like, fuck you, I ain't buying this.
No, I'm just putting it in a bag. I'm not saying anybody anything. I'm just like carrying it around, and then I sort of like, I'm telling the truth to myself. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna listen to it. You know,
I got you.
I am a completionist for a lot of bands, but you know,
But you don't listen to all the records, right? From a band.
I've listened to all my. I don't have a single record that I haven't listened to. I don't have any sealed records unless I bought them for keeping them sealed, which means I have like more than one copy of it. You know, like today I got a record just because I've never seen it in a different color. Right? Look, you see this record that I bought? Can you? So
We can make
this
it
is a
big.
weird
See it.
cover. Yeah.
Show it again.
So this is a
here.
record from my country. It's called Los Cristians, which is a bizarre cover. It looks like somebody scratched it. But anyways, I had this for the longest time, and then somebody sold me this copy today after like a month of negotiation, which was weird. And I have it on yellow colored. So this is not on Discogs, but this one is, and I didn't have it, so, or the other way around. So I don't, I didn't need it, but that's my criteria. BP. Why do you wrote that, Jason? That's fucked up.
If you go back to High Rand's comment, I could talk about that for like 3 hours. We're not going to, but
This is
it would be
recent
nice.
comment?
Yeah, the one you just showed a second
This is
ago.
comment.
About how Cats doesn't have the greatest
You mean
sandwich
this
of all time.
Yeah, they're trying to. The thing is, stores cannot screw the distributors, man. The distributors have all the power.
It's true.
Well,
We can
guess
screw them in
so.
other ways by like talking bad about them on the internet.
I will say that last time that I was in Austin with Jason, I brought a fuckload of records that I wanted to take a record stores and trade. And Jason knows that I roll with a suitcase and shit, so I had a lot of records. And then one store, they told me for like 6 records that I wanted to change, they told me like $70. I'm not gonna name names, but they told me like $70. And then another store, they told me 180. That's like
What?
a big difference. Yes, exactly. So
Depending on what those 6 records were, $70 is a pretty damn good.
well, two of them were Selena
Cash them.
records, which go for more than $150 each.
Oh,
But
that's
I
a
was
different story.
yes, but
A lot of it has to do with whether I mean I imagine it has to do with whether the store thinks they can sell them, right? Like if you're trying to sell
well,
records to them that their
if
clientele
you
is
live,
looking for.
if you live in Texas and have a store in Texas and can't sell a Selena record,
Oh no, I agree.
you're
I
a
agree
bad
with you.
seller.
Yeah.
But I didn't sell them to them because I traded one and sold one for like 150, and the other one I traded it at the show the next day. So both trades were horrible at the record stores.
I mean, this isn't a subject that I'm particularly interested in getting into, but the more that people want record stores to pay them for their used records, the more record stores then have to sell them for, which then people have to go online and complain about how much records cost in stores. So you have to make up your mind, like, because if they're paying you 70, they're probably going to price them at like 100, 120 or whatever. You pay them 180, now all of a sudden the record's got to cost 300 or whatever. You know what I mean?
I get
So
that,
let's
but if you're selling to a store like more than 4 or 5 titles and they all want to make like $60 on each, that's a little, that's when I'm like,
Well, I agree. See if they're paying you 70 and then they're pricing it at 500 or something absurd like that, then yeah, the record stores are being douchebags.
because I took a Gigi Allen record and the guy wanted to give me like $100 for that one. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I think the cheapest one at the moment on Discogs was like 400, 500.
Well, maybe he thinks he's not going to be able to sell it for 6 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's that
Well,
the time thing has something to do with it too.
Also,
you can sell a Guns N' Roses record a lot quicker than you can a Father Yod record. You know what I mean? Like, so there's the time thing has something to do with it.
Shout out to
and Chris, this goes back to our conversation from like a month ago about using Discogs median as a negotiating tool. You know what I mean? It's like sellers want you to, or when you're going to a record store selling your used records to them, you want the store to give you the money based on what you saw on Discogs. But when you're buying, you don't want to buy them from the record store based on what you saw on Discogs.
Yeah.
So again, it's like this is a thing that's happened since the vinyl resurgence. Is everyone just wants all the money, right? You want record stores to pay you everything, and then you want them to buy them less. And people don't understand the plight of the record store. I'm not saying like you should like feel sorry for record store owners. I'm just saying that it's a tough line that they're trying to walk down, where they can get records cheap enough while keeping prices down, because most people aren't going to pay Discogs prices in a record store.
No, and you're right, but I will also say, like, well, for example, Jeff there is saying like Record Safari. I've gotten some great records from Record Safari, and at a good pricing. So I don't know if that means that if I take my records over there, they're probably gonna lowball me. But like, I wouldn't be mad at Alex because he actually sells the records at a very reasonable price. So I wouldn't be that mad. That's a. I think Alex gets like huge record collections where he probably doesn't pay a lot. So I don't know if like he takes a lot of records at the store, because I see his like stories and he has like he goes to a house full of records, So that's fine.
I mean, you guys are kind of making the arguments that the stores are relevant, actually.
Yes.
So it's either that or we all got a C in economics at some point. Because
what people need to understand about record stores is that they live and they die by their used selection. The profit margins on new records are nothing, and they're not making any money, especially since you made the point, Jose, earlier, that stores are like tripping over themselves to give records away for zero profit on Discogs. You know what I mean? Which is why I don't understand why they keep doing it. I want to go to all those stores that are doing it and tell them to cut it out because they're fucking everybody else over. But
Well,
aside from that, you have to have a good used selection because that's the only place you're getting a decent margin.
So let's talk about this for a second. So Dom, you buy reissues, right?
Not so much. I mean, it
Not so
depends.
much.
No.
Okay, fair enough.
I went over the last 2 years. I've sold a good majority of what I had, but I've kept some, and I will buy them if it just sort of itches the right or scratches the right itch.
Or what about so new bands you're buying? Let's say you buy a new record from a newer band or it's a new release. Are you going direct to that band's website, or are you going into your local store to pick?
Unless it's something I definitely want, I think I won't be able to get at a store. I usually don't care. I'll run if I run across it. When I go to the shop that has used records and they have some new stuff, I'm like, oh, I've been meaning to get that. Let me grab that. But mostly no. Mostly it's used all day long.
I was hoping you'd say that. So without that store having that used anchor, you're not even giving the new record to sniff in the store.
No.
It's like I'm there, so it's a couple extra bucks you don't care about, right? And
No.
I think that this kind of backs up Jose's point. If you're not anchoring with that used selection or some kind of specialty, having the new records is almost pointless.
Well, for instance, I was in Harvest Records in Asheville, which is tip-top shop. That's a great store. Great prices, pretty wide selection of used, and again, just a lot of interesting stuff I don't usually see. So I had a pretty nice pile going, and then I was about done. I'm like, oh, here's that Emahoy record I've been meaning to get, the new Emahoy archival issue. It was there, so I'm like, perfect, I'll grab it. Is it cheaper than somewhere else? Who cares? Like, it's here in front of me.
Right.
I'll just get it for the price. And I knew it was actually a good price because that store had everything at a very reasonable price. So that's the example I would say is how I'm getting a new one.
Yeah, I kind of put me on this train because I'm have the similar experience to Jose. I don't go to my locals a lot because the used inventory is the same stuff over and over again. So therefore, I'm not driving out of my way to go pick up. I
will say that I've said it before here. We live in a little bubble because I would say like most stores and Dom and Joel can tell me that. Most stores get a lot of younger people that want to buy the Charlie XCX record, the whatever Taylor Swift just farted. And it's fine, but so I'm not complaining about that. I think that it's just different crowd, because most people just want to get, oh look, a new Yo La Tengo reissue got out, and they buy it. They don't really care what pressing it is. I would say like that's the majority of people when they buy Nevermind. They're not looking for the MoFi pressing or the US first pressing. They just want Nirvana's Nevermind. So,
but there's probably like 150 to 250 titles that fall in that Nevermind category that every record store is going to think they have to have. But my point is that you don't have to go to the record store to get that.
Mm-hmm. No, but
that's the downside.
No, but again, I think that little bubble does exist where we don't really see that. But most people really like going to a store and just taking photos and buying like a Frank Ocean bootleg just because they just want the record. They don't really care if it's the OG or not, So,
yeah,
like I know how specific my collection is now that I'm looking for like very specific stuff. Like I've been collecting mostly just Latin American experimental rock and pop records for like 2.5 years, like mostly like only that. But so I know where I can go and get them, but yeah, and I know it's only in the capital here that I'm gonna buy those type of things, or if not, it's gonna be Discogs or some random seller that somebody send me their WhatsApp, So I still want to go to stores and buy them. It's just sometimes it's very difficult because, again, most stores are focused on what actually brings them money, which is newer titles, I guess. You know?
Well, high rent district, he said, Tom, right? He said nobody opens a store to make money. And I that's completely true. I think at best you're breaking even, maybe, you know, making a decent salary. Like, you're not raising a family on a record store. I just don't think that's happening. But I do think someone like Alex Record Safari, he's probably doing pretty good because he's aggressive. He's aggressively buying collections. I mean, he's probably paying pretty decent. He's pricing to move, and it's a circle that just keeps feeding. The more you do that, the better collections come your way. The better, you know, the better traffic you can draw to your store, and it just keeps feeding. And so you maybe over time you can do decent, but it's by no means like a profitable venture. And yes, you can get gems for your collection. My friend who runs the store, he's got maybe the greatest collection I've seen, and a lot of that has come from just running a store for 20 years or whatever it is. But he's not by any stretch like rolling in dough. I mean, he's doing
But
okay.
the issue is it's true that nobody opens the record store to make money, but when you do open up a record store, you want to make money, right?
Yeah,
You're not trying to get
profitable,
rich. You're trying to become profitable. And there's reasons why it's harder today than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Like, I'd be curious, Chris, the store you said had shitty used stock. Like, I'd be curious, like, what is that person paying for a used collection? Are they ripping people off, and then is he trying to price it really high, and it's just too high to move, and therefore his stock gets stagnant? I mean, I'd be curious as to why that is.
You know, like I think it kind of falls into Jose's frame of mind. To me, it's shitty because it's like, you know, I'm sick of seeing Toys in the Attic and Rumors and Eagles Greatest Hits Volume 2 over and over every week, you know. But that's what you're buying, and it moves. But that's why I think it's crappy. But
It also
I think
those stores.
you guys are acting like stores get a choice in the matter. You know,
no,
what I mean?
I know.
Like,
I know,
if you're out there digging and you're traveling around buying collections, you probably have more of a choice, right?
Well, I will say this.
Most people don't have that luxury, you know.
But Joel, here's the thing. Like, Dom's talking about this cycle, like from the buyer's perspective, it's the cycle for me too, right? So it's like, I don't mind spending $2 or $3 extra on a modern pressing or a reissue in the store, but they're not getting me to the store, to get that. But that's kind of what I'm talking about.
I will say this. I worked at a record store for 2 years, and what I would normally suggest, because there was only one other employee at the record store, is that we would get like one copy of everything tops. Like, even if it was like Dark Side of the Moon, we would only get one, maybe two, like in the maximum, because that way we had more titles than just keeping 6, you know, different copies in the back if they sold. And let's say somebody did wanted a Guns N' Roses, and they came, hey, do you have Guns N' Roses? I'd be like, no, but you know what? We have Blind Melon that Shannon Hoon used to sing at some song.
You do? Holy shit.
You would say that.
Yeah, of course I would. And most people would be interested if they arrived for, let's say, One Direction, right? It was very popular here when I was at the store. And I would be like, well, you know, One Direction, one of the guys there just recorded a record at the Peter Gabriel studio. So here's the Peter Gabriel. You might enjoy that. And if they come back and they're like, oh, I like that. You also have to know like what type of Peter Gabriel record you're gonna recommend. Probably the first one's more poppy, you know. So I'm just saying, like, there are ways that you can sell a record to someone even if they don't know it, because they have connections to bands you like. You know, I hate the fucking Cars. I grew up listening to Weezer. If somebody told me like, hey, this guy, you know, produced the...
Bob just recoiled when you said that.
No.
I hate the Cars.
Jose, you're talking about a very interesting dynamic. Like, first off, if the 16-year-old kid comes in and wants Nevermind and you don't have it, they're not like you. Yeah, you can upsell that kid,
Yeah, I could.
It's
I could.
but here's the thing. Here's the takeaway. Hey man, I went to Jose's record shop and I went to go get Dark Side of the Moon, and never mind, they didn't have it. So we shouldn't go back there. Let's just get it on Amazon. That's the risk you run.
Well, yes, fine. But for example, if somebody tells me, "Oh, I like Dark Side of the Moon," I'll be like, "Hey, you know, the girl that sings at a Great Gig in the Sky was a very popular session singer, and one of my favorite prog records of all time is called Uno, an Italian band that only released one record. And if I have that, I'll be like, listen to this, maybe you'll enjoy it. If you were bringing up Pink Floyd, maybe because I'm a little.
You have to guarantee returns, though, Jose. Be like, bring it back if you don't like it.
No, fuck that shit. Stuck it up your ass if you don't like it. But at the same time, there's stuff you could. Hey, Nick Mason produced this, Robert Wyatt record, and if they like that,
yeah.
Robert Wyatt, you could say like, oh, Robert Wyatt recorded with Bjork, and so it doesn't really matter. If there are ways that you could sell a record and make it interesting for someone to want to buy it instead of Dark Side of the Moon. No, I don't have it, but I have a Dub Side of the Moon, whatever the fuck that shit was. Or,
In this case, you're selling yourself, Jose. You're selling yourself to this person.
Right.
This is like you go to the supermarket with your mom and you're like, I want Frosted Flakes. And she's like, you're going to get the generic flakes. And you're just like,
As long as they're frosted, Mom.
You can't do that shit, man.
No, but
listen, you should come work on my team. Dude, I think you could sell. Make a ton of money for me.
Crazy, man.
I want to reply to Seafree because he might be interested in this, but I really don't hate the Eagles. I'm that guy on Seinfeld. Whenever somebody plays Desperado, I'm like, oh yeah, you know that song.
Jose's the person who's going to be like, sorry, we don't have Appetite for Destruction, but we do have Spaghetti Incident. Ouch.
But we do have a toilet in the back, which is probably the same thing. It's the same. But I'm just saying, like, there are ways that you could sell up a record, because again, when you go to a record store and they only sell new stuff, they're not buying all the records. If you go over there and they're only, hey, do you have Tame Impala? They are only going to have Currents. And that's what I'm saying.
Can you imagine going in like some 15-year-old kid's having an epiphany about indie rock, and he goes in to get the Weezer Blue album, and Jose's like, "We don't have that, but Rick Ocasek produced Weezer. You should get Candio instead."
No. You know what I would say? I'll be like, Rick Ocasek fucked up a great band called Car Seat Headrest because he didn't want a sample of his fucking piece of shit song on a record by them, and it almost broke Matador Records. That's what I would say, which is true.
That's fucking hysterical.
This is funny. Rev's comment: Jose's running the Glengarry Ross record store.
Always be
a set of steak knives.
Always be bonging.
I mean, he's straight up acting like.
I like Mamas in the Pops.
He's acting like Jack Black's character from High Fidelity is what he's acting like.
Yes.
You don't fucking own Blonde on Blonde?
That's the good part. I'm talking about the bad part where the customer comes in looking for Stevie Wonder and he's like, fuck you don't have that.
So somebody comes in for Blonde on Blonde. Jose's like, we don't have Blonde on Blonde, but I have this rare Al Cooper and Sugar Otis jam session. That's Al Cooper played with Bob Dylan, so you might like this.
You want to hear a funny story about Al Cooper? So one of my teachers from the university, he used to give classes in NYU, and his best friend of all time was Al Cooper, and he would tell like this bizarre stories. He was John Cage's audio engineer at what was the name of the studio? Fuck it, I remember. But Alan Tucker, that's the name of my teacher. You can look him up. It was a master engineer. He mastered Metallica's Black Album, so fuck him. No, I can't. But nice guy. But Al Cooper, he said that he after recording, he would always take a shit. That's my story. Right, there you go.
That's it. Blood, Sweat, and Tears. That's how I got the band name.
Get out.
which is nice.
I want to highlight Seaferg here. Whatever music makes people happy is good music, right? John Bong, who gives a crap what other people like? It's like having an argument over Brussels sprouts are delicious or disgusting.
And I don't. That's the thing. I'm criticizing it for me. If you like it, that's great, you know. But they were asking me if I go to a store and if I see certain records, I'm not gonna move an inch, you know. And that's some records that I just don't want to see in general, you know. And if it's like the Rev, if he goes to a store and what's the record he always
Ice Castles.
if Ice Castle's there, he's probably going to be like, at least he's going to go in and like take a photo. But you know, it's not for me. There's, you know, like Rough Trade. I've said Rough Trade back at the old location was great because even if 90% of the records there were new records, they had good pricing. They used to buy a lot from Drag City Records, which, you know, I'm a sucker for, and and that's great. There's a lot of great stuff that's new music. It just depends on what you're selling. If your store looks more like Amazon's like a homepage, then that's a no-no for me. But if your store has a lot of stuff, if you do your homework and you know you see something from a band, upcoming band or something like that, and you have them there, that's great. I think, you know.
Well, these stores that have all new stuff like that, I mean, I've seen that new stores opening up that are just all new. I don't know how they're going to survive. They probably won't. I can think of like Steve Carlson doing some of his record store tours and showing some of these stores in these small towns. And you walk in and it's just like $40, you know, reissues like is the minimum price, and it's just all new. Like, there's no way that store is going to survive. They're going to have to branch out, or they're just toast. So I don't even see how that's a sustainable model, like for anyone to go down that road. It's crazy.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, I mean,
think for new stores, it would be probably better and cheaper to start with, like, even if you have like your one of like part of your collection at the store, that's pretty good.
That's the way to start a store.
Yeah, you have used records that you actually know about, you know their condition, you know what pressing you have, you know what artists you have, and it's cheaper for you. But so that's why I trust when people are like, oh, I used to have this in my collection, I put it out, because that means they know what they're putting out and it's not crap, you know. So because something you guys don't get that I get every single fucking time I see a good record here is that it's G plus, but people are like, hey man, it's a 40-year-old record. What the fuck do you want? And I hate that. I hate it with all my might, because I don't understand. If it's a crappy pressing of a very obscure record, I'm not gonna pay top price for that. But people still like have it in their minds that they have to, you know. So that's a little depressing for me, I guess. But yeah, you can have new records and have diversity. It just means
Sure.
It just means that pay a little more attention to always ask your clientele what they are looking for, and because most of the time they're right. That's why they're looking for that record, you know.
And you're just going to hope that it's not Guns N' Roses.
Yes, exactly.
The remaster version of Spaghetti and
This is the thing, is like, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very niche thing. Like, it's one thing selling to people in the VC that are looking for like first pressings of things. That's not the majority of people, right? The majority of people are looking for their favorite records that they want, and their favorite record isn't something really obscure. It's a copy of Nevermind, right? That's what they want, and they don't want a first pressing, not because they have a problem with it being a first pressing. They don't want to pay $200 for it, you know.
No,
They want to pay the $24.99 that a store has it for on the latest reissue.
I think what we're really trying to accomplish Well, the way I'm thinking about it, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but all of us have had this Zen-like, religious-like, spiritual-like tie to record stores, right? We all value them. I'm sure that the people that know us outside of record collecting, they know, like, when we see a record store, it's like a temple for us. And I think what's missing in a lot of this is that experience is not getting shared with the people that are just coming in for Dark Side of the Moon and they just want it quick and fast. I think for record stores to stay relevant, you have to duplicate what we loved about those stores and evolve on that. Otherwise, they are gonna die, and the hobby will die, or not die. Go ahead, Don.
What
No,
I'm all
I was
saying
just
is different.
Well, that store, I know I used to be a rep for that store. I used to rep that store, and they go on their reputation because they've been around since like the 70s or 80s, I think, right, Arnaldo? You know, and they have in stores. Like they're one of those stores that's been around for forever. So reputation in a place like Long Island, which is fucking insular as hell, like that place will be fine because they have this built-in customer base, and it feels like a mall store. That store, I know that store well.
But they've been around forever. They've been in a community and created a community. So people have been shopping there for 50 years, 40 years, and their kids are going to shop there. And if those kids their kids stick around and they have kids, they're going to go there. Like, we're going to go to that record store. That's where we all go. That's something to create now would be extremely difficult just based on new stock. I think, like, you'd have to be the only record store in a substantial radius with it has all these in stores and promos and events and things like that.
You need both.
Also, if your store has been around since 1971, people are always going to go and try to get those easier to get records at your store because it's like they're used to it by now, you know, even if it's whatever, you could probably buy the same price on Amazon. But for most people, what I'm trying to say is, like, especially cities like Toronto or New York or Seattle or whatever, you know, Austin, when you go to a store that you've never been in your life, it's always nice to see records you usually wouldn't find where you're from.
Absolutely.
You know? So the bigger the city you live in, the more, you know, high hopes I have to find something from around. The first time I ever went to Human Head, for example, I went inside and I told the guy I want records from New York, and he was like, "All right." He was like, "What type of music do you want?" And he gave me a pile, and I took every single record that he showed me, and that was very exciting, you know. And I still do that when I go to cities that I've never been to before. When I go to Canada, I try to buy Canadian stuff, you know.
Oh, yeah. Montreal, go there. That's a great place to go.
Yeah, Montreal. And Cops in Toronto is pretty fucking sweet. And even like, what is it? Sonic Boom, that's like mostly only new records. They still getting like independent labels. They get a lot of like, if there are reissues, they have, last time that I went there, they were reissuing all these, what is it? What's the Eric strip? They were releasing like all the Eric records. Yes. So I didn't have them. So I was like, I'm happy to take them and know that I got them in Canada, you know, because, you know, I don't live in the US. So every time I go to the US and buy a record, it's a different pressing, I guess. So,
that's the way to do it, for sure. Absolutely.
So, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. If you live in a city that people are expecting to get some record, even if it's a reissue, you know, when I go to Texas, I'm always looking for like Yandic records, which I got at Antoine's, by the way. And there's going to be the only reason I'm going to go to the US in like 4 or 5 years right now that I have planned is because there's going to be a Yandic live show celebrating, what is it, like 50 years in Austin.
Where's oh god, nice.
It's 50 years.
Yes.
I'd go to that.
Yes.
I'd go to that.
Yes. So but you know what I mean? It's like,
it doesn't matter if I find a reissue or if I find a OG pressing that's you know, I'm happy just to get one in Texas. If I've got, I think 2 of my 13th floor elevator reissues that I have, I got them in Texas because I was like, why not, right? So it helps out. But most people that live in cities, they don't have a lot of record stores. They do buy online mostly because the accessibility, you know. I buy a lot on Discogs, eBay, or direct on Bandcamp, a lot on Bandcamp, because I can get the records most of the time here, and if it's a band that's not from here. But yeah, I would say like my suggestion is always support your local label, support your local bands, even if it's like that means like in the country wise. But if you ask around, hey, I'm looking for this, blah blah blah, just get one copy. You know you're gonna get that guy back probably, and or just tell him, hey, I can get the record for you, you know. And that's what I used to do here. I would tell people, oh, what records do you want? Oh, I can get all of them for you, and I would try to see a way of getting them.
A lot of people don't like doing that. It's good to have. I think Chris, you were saying like the 150 like most obvious sort of records that just sell every week. In the Airplane Over the Sea is one that sells here every goddamn week. You know, have those records. Have those records in so that the people who come in looking for the Fleetwood Mac and the Guns N' Roses and the Dark Side, the Stones, Beatles, they can get all that. They, oh yeah, I heard this record's amazing. Like, you know, let them get that. And then they're going to tell their buddy about that they got all these things there. And like, oh, I didn't know that record that even existed, you know, like that kind of thing. And then also have a wide array of used quantity, used inventory if you can, if you are, you know, able to get those collections in. You need them. So
and you gotta I hate to say like train your staff because it's sounds so corporate, but if I'm coming in there buying Sticky Fingers as like a 17-year-old kid, like your staff has to be like, oh, this is also a great record. If you like Sticky Fingers, like here's your next move. You have to do that.
Here's an unemployment sheet.
Yeah, basically.
No.
You know, it's just, I think it's not really being salesy, because if you're passionate about the subject, it's very natural to get into that conversation, like confirm their purchase. Like even if you don't love the music, like, you know, something relevant related to that record that they're buying, like give them the next step. People, you know what? People want that too. People want to know what they should do next. They don't.
Some do.
I think, but that's what I think people go back to. That's why people go back to stores, because they got something that otherwise they wouldn't have gotten, you know. Like I was saying, you know, here there's a lot of people buying, like everywhere, right? Taylor Swift records. And if you say, hey, well, you know, if you like Taylor Swift, you might enjoy, I don't know, Birdie or, you know, Vashti Bunyan if you go in the other direction. I would suggest, you know,
what's the connection? What's the connection for Taylor Swift? That's Vashti Bunyan.
Well, you know, I'll tell you, because Vashti Bunyan was a very, very young when she did her first record, and I still see it as, even if it's an, you know, older record, you can still make the case that it's still like very youthful. You know, it's a lot of very beautiful love songs, and I find the connectivity there more than just a genre, like people looking for Taylor Swift record. And
I might say, like, have you heard Joni Mitchell yet? You might want to do that. And then we'll go to something else, a little, you know, like maybe Linda perhaps, or maybe a Karen Dalton, and then maybe we can get to Vashti.
Jose, someone can't come in. Someone can't come in and look for like Achtung Baby, and you're like, oh, Bono has blue eyes, so the lead singer of Can had blue eyes. You might like Can. Like, you can't do that, dude.
Wait. If my Vashti Bunyan was wild, Linda perhaps is like way wilder. That's like harmony.
True. You got me there. You got me there.
No, but Dom's like, this is Taylor's influences, whether she admits it or not. Like, that's the natural progression.
Well, of course, if I'm taking
There's no way Taylor Swift knows who Vashti Bunyan is. There's no way. Get her on the phone, Rohan.
But I
Send
would
her the
probably
link.
be
Send her the
like,
link.
I would probably be like Stevie Nicks. Probably that'll be like easier, I guess, if I'm actually going to go that route.
Great.
If I'm
Okay,
going to go
that's
that
good.
route, you know,
They put
It's
Stevie
not
that
much.
Nicks.
there.
It's not much of an upsell though, Jose. You got to be thinking upsell.
No. But I know. But you're talking about people that they
How
don't
about
know
this
that
$30, Linda Perhacs reissue, not this $5,
Lydia Lunch. Hey, here's Lydia Lunch.
Listen, you guys, I'll be honest with you. You guys are like in a world of your own, because if someone did that to me when I went into a store, like tried to say, "Oh, that record you got is cool, but here's a million others that I think are cool too," that would be exhausting for me, and I would leave.
Well, that's a good point. You need an opening. Someone has to show like maybe they are actually looking for that to be, sold to.
I did sell one time somebody that was getting a Bruce Springsteen record. I got them to buy a suicide pump.
Yeah,
suicide. So that again, you don't know. Like,
listen, let me ask you this: how often do they come back again and be like, "Hey, thanks for recommending Suicide to me"? Do you have any other?
A lot.
Okay.
I still
about streamers now.
I still see a guy here that he would only buy like black metal. And one day I asked him if he smoked weed. He said yes. I told him to buy Sleep. He bought it. He loved it. And then I told him to buy when King Gizzard dropped Rat's Nest. And he was like, "Oh, you know what? That's like trasher but a little weedy." And he was fine with it. And he's a huge King Gizzard fan. And now I see him at shows, and he still reminds me that I told him to get that King Gizzard. So I like that type of things, because one of the records I got a Human Head when I was 18 was a Glenn Branca record. That definitely shake me up, because somebody recommended me something like that, because I was like, Sonic Youth, where here's Glenn Branca, here's Rishatam, and then you go from there, and that's fine. From Sleep to Bill Cosby. There you go.
Right,
Yeah,
right, there you go.
It's just a lot. It's a lot. You're hitting us with a lot there, Jose.
No, I bet Taylor Swift does know Vashti Bunyan, because I saw her mentioning someone the other day. I don't remember. And Vashti Bunyan plays with like very, very popular. What's Max Richter? Like that was her pianist for like 3 years. But that's like easier to get. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, for God's sake, Kesha's like covered Bob Dylan and shit like that. So it's not like a hard to get stuff if you like Taylor Swift, suggesting more female. What do you call that? Singer songwriters. I don't think. Oh, there you go. Nice. I don't think that's it's like a horrible.
It's not a stretch.
Skip.
Yeah,
it's not a stretch. If
you guys,
I don't know.
You guys are playing chess. You need to be playing checkers with people. Like, you can't. It's like, I can think of 1,000 analogies that are inappropriate, but like you can't go that far. Like, baby steps on this stuff. You don't want to freak.
No, of course. I'm just like giving
You're freaking me out, and I'm not even.
Come on, man. Come on.
I can't wait till that kid finds out that Vashti record's going for over $1,000.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. If somebody comes in for Taylor Swift and you recommend Vashti, you're just dick swinging, in my opinion. You're like fucking Jack Black from High Fidelity. That's bullshit.
Her reissues are like $20.
Correct.
Yeah, check out.
That's not
okay.
You came in for Taylor Swift. Here's have you found the 1971 Phillips original? Because that's what you need.
Yeah.
That's the next step.
That's the thing, there are like very accessible stuff. If you like Nirvana, I could probably do the stretch for like Sonic Youth, definitely. Oh, you
sure.
know,
Not
Kurt
really a
had this
stretch.
list. And,
Hey, that's like a better baby step.
well,
This
it's a
is why
stretch
people.
in the
This is
sense
why
that
people
they're not
snap
playing the same
pictures
type
and
of
stream.
music.
You're the reason why people snap pictures and go on Spotify first.
No,
Yeah,
I
There
think
you go.
I think record stores also probably should have like a Spotify or YouTube open all the time to like play something. Depends on how big a store is. Probably like Waterloo or End of an Ear wouldn't do it, but if you're at Jason's favorite Antoine's, you probably could. And I was gonna say before I jumped in, I rarely, if ever, play a record at a store. I fucking hate doing that. Like, I know I
What?
probably should, but I
Why?
fucking hate listening to a record at the store. I don't know. It like if I could take it out and see if it's scratched, that's different. But like actually playing it, like why? Like,
Well, I'm checking the condition, and then after the
Yeah.
condition, then
can-
I'm
Yeah. Also, maybe it's something you thought you wanted, you haven't seen it in
Correct.
a long time, and you're like, oh wait, do I even like this? I should maybe play it. Oh wait, this sucks. What was I thinking?
yes.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of music you're into.
I don't
You know?
I don't know how many records you have on your want list, but I have so many records on my want list. Like, if it's there, I'm probably gonna take it. You know.
Well,
Well,
I've
you
definitely
should-
bought things off a want list and been like, wait, what was I thinking? You know.
Yeah, but if you don't actually know the record, you're not gonna buy like a $60, $100 record. If you don't actually know anything about the record, because I one of my favorite genres is psych. But if somebody tells me, "Oh, this record is going for super cheap here at the store, it's only $200," there's no way in hell I'm gonna buy that shit, even if Discogs Medium is 800. You know, I would because they have a split E EP.
Now we got to talk about flipping again.
Well,
We got like way off topic. Like it is impossible to
Wait,
keep
wait.
on any kind of topic with Jose.
wait, Sean.
You're like
Sean,
1 second. I got my 10 more opinions I gotta share. 1 second. 1
Wait,
second.
Sean, that's not a big stretch.
See,
One
no.
Direction, right? You got One Direction, and then you have Harry Styles that recorded at the Peter Gabriel studio. Peter Sleazy Christopherson took the photos from those OG first records of Peter Gabriel, a member of Coil. So, fuck.
Okay, this is what I mean. This is what I mean by the dick swinging. You're not upselling. You're playing 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with music. There's like a
Yes.
big
Seriously.
difference here, man.
Yes.
I mean,
But
I can tell you right now, I can
I'm
get
just
to
saying, like-
Zappa. I can get from Zappa to Tupac in probably 4 moves if you give me a few minutes. That doesn't mean that someone's gonna buy this
Yeah, of
shit.
course.
And I need to hire someone like
No, but
Jose
there's-
for my store to talk to all the people that are interested in that kind of stuff, so I don't have to do it.
But Chris, like if it matters, like for example, if Tupac had a sample, that wouldn't be a stretch because there's a lot of people
Right.
that buy it for the just for the sample. You know, there's a lot of like dollar records from like Soul that just because somebody sampled them, that people are looking for them. So
No,
you
you're
know.
100% right. That's the whole genesis of my music obsession is hip hop, and then from there, samples.
So
and
and again, I don't. Of course, that would be like I'm just trying to be funny, but I wouldn't suggest that perhaps. But there are suggestions that you can try to give to people because think about this: if somebody doesn't know the artist you're mentioning, it doesn't really matter how they sound because they don't know how they sound. You know, so
Yeah.
if I'm talking about, it could be something as simple as, oh, you like Nirvana? Well, here's Jesus Lizard. But like hyping it that much would also be like a bad thing if they don't know it. You know, so because I there's bands that I know their name, but I've never listened to because I know how they probably sound, and I'm not looking for that right now. You know, like The National. I don't know how the fuck they sound, but people always tell me like, oh, it's like if Leonard Cohen had a limp dick and did like
What?
rock.
You're not going to say that at a store.
No, nobody's gonna say that. But you know what I mean. So I've never listened to it, so that's hyping it too much. Right?
fuck.
But if somebody told me, oh, the National, you probably like them. They sound like
A limp dick.
a limp
Leonard
dick on
Cohen's Limp Dick,
foot.
the new one from the National, the new LP by the National.
That's too much. Get
I would
out.
probably have listened to it,
Come on, man.
But again, it has to be with genres as well. Because, for example, people that I hate the term world music. I hate it with all my life, by the way. But if somebody tells me they collect that shit, they're way easier to buy anything that's from a third world country than most people, because they just like the rarity of it. So again, if hip hop, that's the same. If somebody's looking for like samples, if you tell them, oh, this record was sampled by whoever, they're probably gonna buy it. Even if they haven't listened to it. So it also plays with that. I
Get
think.
So the Gypsy Kings and Fela Kuti are not the same genre.
I guess somebody would do that bastardization, not me. I guess.
this comment right here.
That's a horrible. That was a horrible leap. That's probably the worst leap I've ever heard. From La Bamba soundtrack to Fela Kuti. Los Lobos to like.
That's weird.
Rojas, reel it in, man. Reel it in, Rojas.
It's tough. It's tough. I think. I mean, you know what? I love this comment by Tom. I love this comment. I just can't help looking at this. Get out of here.
By the way, the other day I had nothing to do, and I watched a Limp Bizkit documentary on
Really?
chocolate starfish for whatever reason.
What did you learn?
And no, it was on the other record, the green record everybody hates. I forget what's the name of that record? You know which one I'm talking about? The one that has
Is that the complete discography? Is that the record?
No. The one that has Behind Blue Eyes cover. What is it?
Right. If you like, you're buying Who's Next. If you like the Who, you should try Limp Bizkit. You see where this is going? You see it?
Right. Can you imagine that?
That's guaranteed to bankrupt the record store right there.
Well, I have I don't know if Dom, when he's back, he knows that Tony Molina, but that's Tony Molina.
Juana, which one?
Tony Molina.
Tony Molina.
Tony Molina. He has like these records that are like 10-minute long, 12-minute long records. No, you don't know Tony Molina?
Juana Molina, Jason Molina. I don't know by now. Tony.
Yadier Molina.
Yeah, Tony Molina.
Mr.
Well, anyways,
Molina.
Tony Molina, which is excellent. He sounds like if the Beatles and Metallica's earliest records had a kid and they went to school together, whatever. There's a really good record. They're like 10-minute long records. And I've sold that record to a lot of Beatlesque fans because even it's a punk record, but like you can make the stretch. And if you play it to people, like, oh, like they like the fact that somebody's doing like lo-fi Beatlesque sounding melodies on modern music. So there's ways to stretch it. What I'm trying to say is that if you have a good interaction with someone at a record store, it goes a long way. That's why I think they're necessary, because the human interaction part of it makes it nice.
Yes, the human interaction makes it nice, except when you're recommending Vashti Bunyan after Taylor Swift. Get out of here.
That's not a horrible stretch, I think.
Oh my god!
Because I don't.
Now's not the time to double down on it, man. Now's not the time.
I don't have kids, but I'm not gonna tell my kids what to listen to. I know that. Even if they want to, you know, I had a very eclectic taste, and if I have kids and they want to listen to reggaeton all the time, I'm not gonna be mad. You know, I'm gonna be like, at least put me some Daddy Yankee, you know. So you know, what seems to be a highly improbable, but we have. Well, at least if I fuck up, I fuck up. But Spotify only recommends you, like, even if you're listening to like fucking Emperor or like black metal, it's always recommended you Paul McCartney, and fuck them for that. So you don't want to take no advice from Spotify. You know,
Dom, what
you're
makes
like,
a record
you're like,
store essential in your mind, Dom?
Essential, you say?
Yeah, what makes a record store essential to you? What are the things that keep you coming back besides selection?
Yeah, I mean, selection, good price, like easy to browse the bins, you know, not too much bullshit around. You know, a little bit of everything, no one too annoying, bins not packed too tight. You know, these are all things I look for, but ultimately, do they have good records is what it is. Start from there and work your way down.
In your time, kind of in the industry from the label side, like what are some of the unique things you've seen record stores do that set them apart from others? Any unique characteristics, promotions, cultural things, maybe?
I mean, the side that I was involved in, it was always about, like, you know, more gimmicky shit. You know, at the time when I was in that part of the business, like, it was record stores were dying, and the ones that were still around were like the chain stores, your Newbury Comics, your Bull Mooses, and then there's, you know, some of the big ones like Waterloo, Amoeba. You know, so their whole thing was always about price and trying to get people to come back and stick with the stores and not go to big box stores. So, you know, they all, you know, relied on co-op dollars. You know, it was a big thing that they were trying to garner and get. This is before Record Store Day, probably like early 2000s into the, you know, mid to late 2000s. So they were trying to compete and try to stay on the same level as these bigger stores that were like beating them on price every day. So they wanted, like, you know, unique value added items, you know, stuff that today no one really cares about. The most unique things I saw was, like, you know, like a store really championing one artist, like, that they loved, and like coming up with these whole promotions on their own that had nothing to do with any labels. One of the ones that was one of those artists was James Blunt, if you can believe it. I remember a store just like going over the top, talking about James Blunt and making their own displays, custom displays, and promoting the shit out of it. You know, whatever you want to think about James Blunt, if you even remember who that was. So, yeah, not John Bong, but James Blunt. Yeah,
James Blunt is playing here like in a week.
Is he still making music? Good for him.
He's doing like a 20-year anniversary something.
Oh, good for him. He's still playing that one song, I'm sure. But no, I mean, you know, indie stores were dying when I was sort of involved in that scene. So we're involved in that part of the industry. So
I just added
world.
Oh my!
Can I say that Stunty looks very ominous on the gray background always? Like he's in a meeting and he's like about to take a shit on me because
it's a conference room.
I forgot an Excel spreadsheet that I had to do. So can he do that right now, please?
Welcome, Stunty.
Hello.
How was your festival? How was it?
I'm leaving in 4 or 5 hours from now for the festival, and so yeah, it's stressful.
Are you taking a car?
Sorry?
Are you going by car or like a
yeah,
bus?
yeah. There's someone coming actually from the US who's attending to the festival, who's gonna come and pick me up, like renting a car at the airport, and then stopping by my place, and then off we go.
Nice.
Yeah. What time did we discuss again? What time was it?
He'll be here in 5 hours. And I just woke up, and I don't. Hello, everyone. By the way, sorry. Where are my manners? and the answer is no. By the way, record stores don't matter anymore.
Why?
Tell us
There we
why.
go.
Why? Let's go.
Well, because every single one of us, if there was not a single record store anymore left, we would still be buying records, and that wouldn't change that much in our lives.
But when we die, what about the younger generation?
Well, they'll buy our records online from, or like our relatives or our closest will find a way.
So the only thing that I think is like, I think if record stores are gone, right? If you just wipe them off the earth, physical media is the next to go. Because people aren't going to keep buying online. I think the people that do it today will, but I don't think the younger generations will. I think it'll just be a slow decline to nothing, and then all we'll have is streaming.
I don't think so, but you might be right.
Also, you have to understand that also that what 95% of records Stunty is going to get, he's either going to buy them directly from the artist or from a store that specializes in it. And most of those titles, they don't even sell them at any store in the US generally. So that's another reason he probably says that. But,
no, just think about it that way.
Which I agree
also,
on.
Just look at comic books. Like comic book stores are artificially preserved by a distribution system, but like secondhand comic books don't need comic book stores anymore at all, and people who really want comic books like new newsstand release, they find a way to get them anyways, and they find when they want to sell their collection, if there's anything that matters, that is worth something, there's other avenues to sell them than to dump them for bargain price at the store. And even I'm not rejoicing with that. And DJ Vinyl Vertigo saying they don't matter to me. Of course they matter to me. What the fuck is he talking about?
I'd say even if that's true, even if it's true, you can make that argument. That I can see that argument, Stunty, but like, first of all, it's not as fun buying online. I don't know, maybe you disagree. I don't find it as fun. But don't you think that would screw up price for the, because I think that record stores, brick and mortar stores help keep price a little lower. I think the Discogs and eBay prices would be insane if that were to happen. I mean, it's hypothetical.
Maybe, but I think that's where we're going anyways. For the most part, there will always be a bunch of record stores left, because there will always be someone who can afford to have a brick and mortar operation and who's passionate or dumb enough to continue with that. But I think it's a thing of the past, and that we as record collectors or lovers will find ways to get records anyways, and there will be new ways to get them that we don't think of right now.
Stunty, you bring up an interesting point about comic books, and maybe that's a little niche, but the trading card business is an $11 billion business. Vinyl Records is what, 2.5?
Yeah.
I haven't seen a baseball card store open up in my area
and people
15,
go wild. Like
15,
Jose is
20
still getting them sometimes whenever he can.
No, I don't. But I do have a lot from when I was a kid, and I bought a lot. I have my way bought some of it, as you know.
But maybe that
I
is a
will
poor
say- I
example
will
though,
say-
because the trading card industry is a little bit of a flippers game more than records are. But still,
And,
well,
and,
yeah.
and you know that like Pokemon cards and shit like that is like out of this world selling right now. So that, you know, it depends. It depends on a lot of stuff, you know. And like trade shows, I would say like are just as important. But I will say that again, it has to do also with like where you're from or where you live at, because I just have to buy most of my records online. And I actually do think, and I do appreciate finding a record online. Like, you know, I know Stunty knows that, because sometimes it's nice to do a hunt online where it's almost impossible to get a record, and you get like clues, and then you find someone that might have a copy and stuff like that. I think it's just as thrilling, and it takes way more time than just going to a record store. So I don't know. I personally do find it just as interesting and as fun to go to a record store trying to locate a copy online, because I'm doing that anyways. You know, so
I will say I did have fun today tracking down Stunty. That I haven't bought anything online in about a month and a half until today, when I was looking for this Tree of the Left Hand record that you played in your stream. That I did find a copy at a U.S. store, believe it or not. They haven't
I
shipped
know. I got mine from the same.
Estuario.
Yeah.
They haven't shipped it to me yet, but it looked like they had it. Anyway, that was actually a little fun because how many times do you go past 2 or 3 pages on your search when you search for something? I was on like the 3rd or 4th page and I found it, and that was kind of fun.
Don't you agree that we, like as humans, we are a species that adapt? That's like basically like the core characteristic of humans. And I used to live in Paris. I had access to record stores. Like I could just walk out and I would. And now I have access to record stores by taking a bus, and it's a 45-minute ride. And sometimes I do that. But honestly, as you say, Dom, you find ways to make it exciting for you. Like yesterday, I got a bunch of Zouk records. And these records, like to find them out in the wild, here impossible. They're cheap records, really cheap records, but still impossible here. And it was exciting to dig for them online, because I was also discovering something. Like I agree with DJ Vinyl Vertigo. Not everyone who buy records are collectors. I'm not a collector. I have a collection, but my goal is not to own things. Like a collector, in my mind, is the prime objective is hard file. Like I have it on my shelves, and that's what I'm about. We are music lovers who end up having collections out of control a little bit sometimes, like Dom and me, and probably and everyone here actually. And but yeah, and also higher rent district is right. Records have a utility that cars don't have, which is why I think that even if records are not as big a business in terms of traceable money as baseball cards, as Chris was saying, that's why I think that records will survive the fact that if there were no record stores anymore, because he is correct. There are. I'll give you an example. There's a guy who follows my stream who lives in Singapore. In Singapore. And he can't, he doesn't have a PayPal account. It's a nightmare for him to get records. There's only like 2 record stores where he lives and nothing new. So he has to find ways and people to help him get the records. And he's buying records every week. And he's been doing so from my what I know, at least a couple of years.
I actually have gotten lately into buying record related stuff just as much as records themselves, which won't appeal to anybody here. But for example, this record that I'm always championing, I found another copy, but it had a poster of a show. So that was very exciting to me, which actually traded for something else. I also got another one here. But I think that I think online is just as fun because also you get to meet sellers, so you can actually, like, if they have a decent amount of records that go with the things you like, they're more than to make a rapport and eventually buy other things from them. And if they're in a good condition, there's more flexibility sometimes. But again, it depends on what you're trying to buy, right? Of course, if you're trying to buy fucking Nevermind, you're never going to have a rapport with anybody because it's a different crowd, a different thing. But I think that sometimes with when I go to a store, I don't mind like leaving with not having buy anything. Like some people just like feel the need to buy something, even if it's like $1, $5, $10, and I don't. I actually enjoy getting out of a store and not buying anything because I don't know. I just I don't want to buy anything that I'm not going to listen to or that I don't.
Don't move past this comment because this is a really good point that's being made here. Our record, because the conversation about record stores necessary or relevant, they are a middleman.
Yeah.
They are a middleman just as much as distributors are. Okay, but people we went through a period of time where people were questioning whether record labels were necessary, right? Because artists were self-releasing their music. You can go through questioning whether distributors are necessary, as well as record stores. So this is like a really good point that's being made because back in the day, back when this stuff was happening, especially before the internet, you weren't going. The only direct to consumer was happening through either tours or like Columbia House, stuff like that. But now with the internet, they're all going direct to consumer. Even distributors are. That's the phenomenon of Discogs.
Yeah, I've been saying for years now that like if you have a decent fan base, if we take the example of the US where you have media mail, and let's say it costs $6 to ship one record to you, like considering the middleman, like if you buy directly from the label or the artist and you add on top $6, you will often end up paying less than in the old traditional distribution system where because of the distributor, the shop, etc., the price would end up $6 above the price that the label or the artist would sell it directly to you. And I remember the last years I was in Paris, someone mentioned this shop in Paris that is excellent, Le Souffle Continu, which is a label as well, and Dom knows them very well. I would end up going there. They were my pals, so I like to hang out there. I was there every week, but like all the records I bought there, the new stuff, I knew about it before it arrived in the shop. Often I would have to be the one telling them, "Oh, are you gonna get this? Oh, I didn't know it was gonna come out. Let me check if I can get it for you." So basically, they literally became, like Joel was saying, middlemans, like a convenience that, like, in the end is an annoyance because maybe they won't get it. You have no control about how much it will be. And maybe when they can get it, it's already sold out because the band has a decent fan base enough to sell out by themselves and make it more sustainable for them.
Well, your point about it costing the consumer more, I don't know if that's like the biggest issue, but I think a bigger thing is that the artist or the label gets a bigger chunk of the pie, because when you
Yeah.
buy directly from the artist, they're not lowering the price because they don't have to pay a distributor or a record store. They're just getting more of the pie, right?
I'll give you an example of how it was. And Chris, you've worked in a record store as well, right?
Yeah, actually a big box retailer too.
Yeah.
We all
So, do you guys know the traditional price a distributor pays for a 12-inch record from the label? Like, and now I'm talking the prices.
Like today.
2010. How much in 2010 or 2012? Because that's my latest reference for that. Because I had distributor friends, and I remember seeing them arguing with the labels, with the artists. So I remember how low they paid for 12-inch.
Yeah, it was probably, I think it was like $5, $6, $7, something like that.
It was closer to between four something, and it was between 450 and 6, basically.
Mhm.
And in the end, you still ended up paying like 14, 15 for your record.
Yeah, because it depends on. But that's the thing, though. There were more record stores back then, right? So it all.
There were actually less in 2012 than now, but like you could argue what you're saying.
But
Like,
they
it
were
doesn't
able
change.
to. They were able to survive, because right now the phenomenon of why records cost what they do, new record stores aren't, obviously they're not buying 12 inches for $4 anymore. But now the people making the most money are it's skewing more towards the artist and the label. There's also sometimes not just one distributor, but two, and that's yet another. This is why, like, when you go and you look at like a hip hop record that costs like 40 or $50 in a store, you're thinking like, oh, the store is making so much money, man. How could you not? You're selling a record for $50. It's like, no, they also have to pay like 40 or 45 for it from the distributor.
Because these records are released by big labels who have to justify the salary of these creatures, these industry creatures who's been around for 30 plus years, and who have people above them to whom they had to justify their salary. Whereas in John Bong's case, there's no employee. He doesn't even pay himself. He pays himself whenever he can. And so that's why
I did buy myself a meal today.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, that's why that's why it comes back to what we've said earlier. Is like today the record stores that are relevant are the stores that are doing well with used records, because new records are fucked. You can't buy you can't as a store who's stocking new records. You got to be crazy to be having deep inventory on that stuff. You got to be having. It should be really based on how well you can wheel and deal with used collections from collectors, from pickers, from wherever. You got to travel. You got to be aggressive and get in that interesting stock.
So that's part of it. There's also the stores that are able to build up the hype, right? You're thinking of our friend over there in Arizona, getting all the hype around the jazz records and everything like that. He's making a ton of money. He's selling new records.
And he's the exception rather than the rule, though. But I hear you.
But you're exactly right.
I think that it also it's extremely different between a major label, an independent label, and a self-released record. Mostly because I agree with Stunty. Like if an artist has the ability to do that, what I'll say is that there are sometimes artists that are very well known that they really don't put out anything physical, even if it's a shirt. So sometimes it is difficult at first to convert like people listening to them on Spotify to actually buying a record, which is an interesting thing to witness sometimes, because I've had records that I've released for artists where even if they are very popular on Instagram, blah, 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 and they're doing these tours, blah, 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 it's still a little harder to get to sell a record than one might would think. Also, well, I normally talking about at least my experience, I normally do like 300 records per release, and a part of it, a big percentage goes to the artist. Where I don't, of course, I'm
which
just
is
giving,
unusual for an indie label, even. And me and,
Yeah,
Jose have discussed that before.
Yeah, I basically give the artist 50% of the or a little more of the profit, which I think it's a lot. But I'm happy to do that because most of the times they really come back and try to work again with me. I do have certain issues that I'm still like fixing, getting everything shipped faster, blah blah blah. I'm getting a car finally, for the fuck's sakes, in a few months, so that's going to help. But sometimes it's interesting because you're wrong with a lot of interesting problems. Sometimes today I was dealing with a guy that talking about cassette. Somebody told me that the cassette that they received was stuck in the back, so they couldn't access it, so they wanted a full refund. The fucking cassette is on Australia, for God's sake. Just fucking open it. What is this shit? But anyways, so you deal with a lot of things. I give the artist a percentage of the copies that represent 50% at least of the profit. And most of the time they do more than I do because I have to sell them to distributors. That sometimes selling to distributors means that you have to sell them for a lot less than you're selling it to anyone else. And even then people want to make way more, so it's always interesting.
And Jose,
Mhm.
one of the biggest reason why you would want to go through a distributor would be so that you don't need to deal with the Arnaldos of the world. And yet they will still find your address and contact you, even if they bought it from a shop for a distributor. They will still contact you and ask you for a refund because there was a little slight warp on the record.
Well, yeah, I think I told you, right? But I had the other day somebody that I never touched the fucking record. Like the pressing plant sent them like 60, 75 copies. I don't remember. They bought a lot. And two of them got like apparently were warped. And the guy emailed me like, hey, what can I do? It's like a sold out title. It's been 4 or 5 months since it came out. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, I never touched the record. Like,
do you get a press run of just extra records usually for when you do a press run?
Yes, but I keep for myself. I keep like 5 copies because I used to not do it. But what am I supposed to do? Like 5 months after the record got released, 5 months after the guy got the record, I've gotten, unfortunately, twice on Australia. Nothing wrong with Australia. I love them, but like a guy right now is like making my like sending Bandcamp every single hour. Like, hey, this guy got me a cassette that's stuck in the bag. I'm like, just have to click it or release the thing and like open it. It's a Norelco case. I'll buy one. It's like $1, but why would I refund you like the whole shebang? Like it doesn't make any sense. So,
that's like that's a price of doing business.
It is. No, of course it
is the price of doing business.
Sometimes,
I mean, what else are you going to do? Like, listen, if you're the consumer and you got the record that's messed up, and you can't be convinced that
Yeah, but can you honestly tell me that 5 months after you?
But that's a different thing. That's a neat thing.
You just noticed it.
We're getting way off topic, by the way, guys.
Again,
this is like light years off topic. From
no. I think it's. I don't know.
I agree.
No.
I agree with you.
It makes sense.
You get 90 days back. 90 days.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. Like, sometimes you get like a record out, and a store like I had I just sent some records to a store here, and I ended them I got them like a better deal than because I keep copies of stuff that's like sold out, but I keep copies for stores, which I like because I can like offer them. They see that it's sold out and they want to get copies, blah blah blah. And I'll say that I like working with stores here. I used to not sell anything here in Mexico because most people, they just want the fucking Arctic Monkeys and shit bands like that sometimes here. And so it got to a point now that I can actually not really. But you know, so it ties up because I actually like, there's a lot of stores here in Mexico that I like, that they actually buy a lot from independent labels now, and that's the only place that you can physically find them. If not, you have to get them from because there's a lot of labels here in Latin America, like even like Boo Records, that they press the records in Europe and they have all their stock in Europe. So
the bandwidth gods have had enough.
Yeah.
Wow, then I want to get like a record.
Let's just all nod our heads.
I in a store can have like everywhere. I don't know, but
I think the direct to consumer model is one example, like the Blue Note Tone Poet, right? It's less than retail if you buy one title from them, and then if you buy the series, it's like a 25% discount. So that's one evidence of the direct to consumer that's going to totally, if more labels start doing that, like why wouldn't you do that? And the other problem too is that the major record labels are just banks now. They're just financing arms for these projects, and that gets scary. Go ahead, Stevie.
It hasn't got
also, Jose, to the point of the secondhand records that we all care about. Another case for the fact that we don't necessarily need that much the record stores anymore. Look at it. Look at us in the past few years. We have the VC now. You have Jason's dad is selling records on in the VC now, and no, but like look, Dom and I, when we find something we already have that is good and the price is decent, we buy it. Why do we do it? To trade, to sell. Before a few years ago, we used to have to rely on the record store. So the record store would give you like 30-40% of the price that we're going to sell it for. If you were doing a trade-in, they would maybe give you 50% if they were a good, nice store. Now we don't need to do that because, like Dom, he finds that record. Stunty, I have this record, and he will be very happy to sell it to me for between 50 and 70% of what the record store would be selling it to me. He will still make good. And if he's greedy, he can sell it for the same price the record store would sell it to me and get all the benefits, and I would still pay the same price if I was ready to pay it for it in the record store. So like look also at all these sales on Instagram, all these ways how we're hooked on certain titles. And in my case, in Dom's case, I don't know for you guys, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of titles, maybe thousands that we are on a daily basis on the look for, and we're not relying on record stores anymore. Am I off, Dom?
No, I don't think you're off. I have a box of records that I could go trade in, but I just rather let them sit on Discogs until they move because I'm not.
It depends on what it is. I mean, I have some stuff sit on Discogs I don't really care about, but then I have a bunch of other stuff like something saying that I'm sort of holding for probably to do a sale at some point, maybe through this avenue. You know, maybe it's much better. It's true. If I can talk to Stunty or if I can talk to Jason, any of you guys, be like, hey, I know you're looking for this. Like, here's my price. Like, that's a much better transaction than me putting it on Discogs, like, and then maybe running it to someone like Jose with his fucking tape in Australia. Like, I would much rather go with a person I know and who I would actually like to put that record in their hand if possible. Absolutely, you know. But obviously, Discogs is a much easier you know, I don't have to think about it. I can just throw it up there and someone may buy it at some point. You know.
I will say that something that I think that's been very VC because of the VC is that people are way more interesting when they go to a store now to see what's on the wall. And I will say that if I see a shitty wall, that's another reason I will.
See, you're saying like you make fun of the wall, but if they don't have a good wall, you're out. Like, what is it? Can't be both.
No,
right?
I'm just no.
He's
No,
waiting
I'm
for
not taking
Guns
shit
N'
on the wall.
Roses spaghetti incident to be on that damn wall.
Indicative. You say it's indicative of a problem or an actual sort of wealth of good titles.
I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is the VC. You guys are so insular. You guys are like, you think everybody is like you, and you guys are the minority.
No,
Like, you guys are the tiny,
I'm
less than 1% minority of the people that listen to music.
And you know
so
what?
No, I'm saying I want to go and see a wall.
I was saying that when the record industry was at its lowest, that was only us who were keeping the record stores alive.
This is true. This is very true.
But you know what's also true? This conservati comment. It's very true. Very true. Remember that AC/DC record in Antoine's, Jason? Remember that? Huh? Not the AC/DC you're thinking of. Remember that shit, huh? But anyways, I will say that I just think when you go to a record show and you see like a bunch of titles, I don't really mind them there because it's like what's expensive. It's not like somebody did like a curation. They just have like very, very yes, exactly. Yes. There you go. Wait, there you go. They have like just expensive records. But when you go to a record store, sometimes it's nice if you see like a little curation of like what they consider like harder to get. But I don't know. It's just it's
I want to.
I think it's important. I don't know. Now more than ever to see what they have or what they think people are going to mostly look into. And if they have no wall, it's also weird. I don't know.
The only point I want to make about the selling of the used records that y'all were making is that the majority of people don't want to sell their records on Discogs. And even if they do, they will turn away from it the first time there's a problem. You know, first time someone wants to return a record to them, they're like, "What the hell is this? Like, I'm not a store." You know, like they don't want to deal with that. They also turn away the second they realize they have to go buy supplies. You know, they got to go buy record shipping cardboard. They need to go get fillers. You know, so I've seen it time and time again. Like, people would much rather sell it to a store or to another person, or they'll take it to a trade show or like a convention and trade with people.
Correct. Yeah. You're 100% correct. But if they
I think we should be encouraging people.
But if they didn't have the option, do you think they would just throw the records away?
So, I know some people that would, yeah. But I think we shouldn't be. I don't think we should be encouraging more people to sell on Discogs. Like, I'm actually pretty anti-Discogs in general, but you know, that's my bias.
Okay.
Because of the fees that they charge and the toxic way they've infiltrated the community in overpricing records. But I don't think we should be encouraging people to sell the records themselves on places like Discogs and eBay.
I think we should only have Discogs and eBay.
No.
That's what I think.
No, you and I are not seeing eye to eye on this at all.
No. But like, because I don't think the Discogs has anything to do with the predatory behaviors that you were alluding to.
Well, they're the platform, though. They're the platform that allows it.
Yeah. What could they do else? How could it like the people? You know what? The people who actually have or who have made Discogs and eBay less good than it was are the professional sellers and the record stores. the record stores that use Discogs are the one who have ruined the Discogs. Discogs used to be like you and I, like letting our records that we don't want anymore go. And
I can get on.
was
I can
the
get on board
best.
with that. I honestly wish that Discogs would have some control over who they allow to sell. I think it happens on both ends. I think they should kick off the people that overprice. I also think they should kick off the people like the distributors that underprice, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. Like you know, I haven't had a chance to bitch and moan about Alliance in a few weeks on the stream, so I just want to bitch and moan about Alliance real quick. They need to kick them off of Discogs, especially, but also kick off like Forever Young, who goes on there and prices everything at $100 or $200, even if it's like a $20 record. Kick them off. But Discogs takes that hands-off approach. That's why I blame the platform, because sure, you know, is it the people on Discogs that are the problem? Yes. But Discogs allows them to be that way by just staying hands off.
But would you want to prevent professional sellers to use the Discogs?
Say that again?
Would you want Discogs to prevent professional sellers to use their services?
I would be I mean I would be okay with that if that's what they said, if that's what they wanted. But I don't think if you kicked off all of the professional sellers on Discogs, I think Discogs it wouldn't be good for them. Like the marketplace would be severely hurt, because only professional sellers can take the 9% hit on top of the PayPal fee. You know, hobby sellers.
That's not true, because remember, like if you go to the record store to sell, like think about what the record store is going to give you as a private person, and even if you take into account these 9% and 5% or 10% Discogs plus PayPal, you're still getting more than you would get through the record store in 90% of the cases.
Yeah.
So it's just us being as greedy as the professional sellers.
Yeah, I think what we're having here is like it depends on where you live. Like if your choices is a bad store that doesn't offer you enough money for used records or Discogs, then yeah, you're going to take Discogs. We don't have that problem here, and you know, so it's just not something I'm super familiar with.
Yeah, I kind of see Stunty's point. Like I said it earlier, I'm better off selling on Discogs than going to a record store. And if you think about it, the record stores could actually be more profitable on Discogs because they have less overhead if they're getting from distributors and redistributing via that platform.
So the problem there, though, so I've explored this. Obviously, I was online for only a year, but I've sold on Discogs since they started. The problem is there's too much competition online, right? Like you're not the only one selling the record.
Joel, I don't agree with that, because it depends on what you're looking for. Most of the records I'm looking for, there's one motherfucker selling it or none at the moment. So, which is worse than what you think. It actually contributes to your point, because when there's no records for sale, you can ask for anything, and some motherfucker out there will pay for it. So it's even worse than you think. But at the same time, I don't agree with the percentage, because you know sometimes with like expensive records, you either bought it expensive and are selling it expensive, or you got it cheap and are selling it expensive, you know, which allows you to sell it for more.
Remember, creating the shelf space is worth the 9% sometimes.
And remember that Discogs still is kind of like on a very human level, since it allows you to bypass them by contacting the sellers and asking them, do you want to do it off-site and save these 9%?
Yeah, but they also, sellers risk getting kicked off and banned if they get caught.
You know what I do?
I've seen it. I actually know people that have done banned. It requires someone
Well, yeah,
reporting
but
you.
it's so
Because listen,
easy
the first time you do that and there's
Yeah,
a problem.
This happened to me. I talked about this. This happened to
Yeah.
me. I got somebody reported me for asking a seller to sell off Discogs, and I got a warning. I got a whole thing, but they didn't do anything. Discogs,
Yeah.
that is. So Elena should come up here. She's just too good with these.
No. Please don't let her come up.
Well, you're in
Elena,
control.
can I ask you something? Some of us do have wives, but more important than that, not all of us are white. Does that matter for you? All right, can we keep?
My wife watches. She
Wait,
makes fun of me
what?
the next day. It's
Where
great.
are we going
Great
with
for our
this?
relationship. It's fantastic.
Well, I'm gonna have to
And
bow out and let
Maybe
Elena come
she's
up.
angry that she thinks we're all white. I'm not.
I mean, listen, these have been some good perspectives. I will say that.
I'm also
Like,
in my bed and on my phone. That's not an excuse.
wait, what?
No.
did Elena say?
Don't let her come up. Another time. Elena, I'm looking at you right now.
I do have to split though, folks.
Good night, Dom.
It's been
Thanks
real.
for hanging.
Thank you,
Stunty,
Dom.
have a safe travel.
Thanks. And again, I'm not against record stores. I was just making the case that I actually believe in that, like, if we didn't have record stores anymore, that wouldn't change that much in most people's lives who are record collectors. It would change things, obviously, but the result is that we would still spend our record budget on records.
Is it fair to say that we're just afraid to let it go?
I think so.
Yeah.
We all like movies like High Fidelity and all that, like, or maybe we don't, but like we have all these like romantic ideas, and we all grew up here, I assume, like hanging out at record stores, and some people, and also we know what kind of job it is. Like, I've worked in record stores. We all did here. Like, we also know it's not the hardest job in the world until you have to pay the bills, maybe. But
no, it's a status thing. There's bartending, working in a record store,
You're very
bouncer at the
gray
club,
right now.
all kind of the same thing.
Stinty, there's a lot of gray around you. I don't know if you noticed.
yeah, well, I have a gray T-shirt.
I think that's why Rob Walker is saying it.
You know, you remember Gray is a great band as well. Great
If
American
it's gray, it's probably good.
Mm.
You remember that? If it's gray, it's probably good.
Someone brought up this point right here about the movie theaters. So if you think about it, when things changed in the film industry, right, where people don't buy DVDs and Blu-rays anymore. I mean, we can all agree that's basically a format that is like 90% dead, if not completely dead. And it's had and it's had an effect on which movies get made. It's also made an effect on whether people go to movie theaters anymore.
Yeah, but like people,
it's had a huge effect. And the same thing happens with music. When Napster happened, it almost killed physical media. I don't remember what exactly caused the vinyl boom, but imagine the vinyl boom doesn't happen.
Arnaldo caused the vinyl boom.
Huh?
He said Arnaldo.
You had to press twice the amount of copies because of Arnaldo.
Yeah. Well, if the vinyl boom doesn't happen, the world is a very different place, right? Is there a VC if there's no vinyl boom? Well, because the vinyl boom caused like so many other things to happen.
But
where there's people willing to watch a video about people talking about vinyl. That's not a thing.
You now have people who subscribe to streaming services, to several different streaming services, which inject money into movie, TV shows production, and I'm. Okay, like Vinyl Vertigo, I'm from Paris. I used to go to the movie theater twice a day because it was that cheap and you had that much of an offer. That's the main thing I miss from my life from before, just the ritual of going to the movie theater in the evening. Now I live on an island in the forest. I don't have that. And I'm fine with it. I still like my habits have changed a little bit. I still consume movies and like maybe not as much as before, but I still watch probably like 120 movies a year. And I'm fine. You just adapt. Like when the setting changes, we still love movies. I'm still gonna watch them, just in a different way. Hey, Bill. If I could,
I think there's a romance involved with that record store experience. I think that's what we're all kind of getting at. Like, you would miss it, but you'd carry on and you'd find a way to feed the crave, right?
Yeah.
I was watching that.
Jose and the last guy on earth buying DVDs.
I still buy DVDs too, Jose.
This is a Blu-ray, by the way, and it's I don't know the original title, but maybe Stunty knows it. Wild Strawberry.
You guys are keeping it alive.
No,
one of
I
the greatest
think,
movies ever.
I'm just fucking with
I think that most people that buy Blu-rays and DVDs is because they acknowledge that they get more for their buck when they actually buy a movie and all the features and better resolution, and I can actually walk to my other room and buy stuff. I'm actually gonna have to get the fuck out of here in 5 minutes, by the way.
But just think about the theater experience now. And this is sort of related to
By the way,
record
you're
store
not gonna get this on Netflix, you know.
No, we're not, Jose. Let me finish my point. Damn it. So the theaters don't market the film anymore. The theaters market the beverages, the popcorn, the reward perks, the chair, the air conditioning, the 15.1 Dolby Atmos. Like, so they're not saying like, you know, no, unless it's like an indie theater, they're getting some exclusive, you know, Q&A with a director or something like that's something special. But like the mass market theaters they're marketing the experience.
Literally, yesterday I was in a record store in Stockholm, and they had like, it's a kind of like tower records type of store we have there. They had a record that I know at least Jose knows about, by Eiko Ibashi, like the wife of Jim O'Rourke, who produced. Yeah. And I bought that record when it was released in an online record store from Italy that Jose knows, Soundhome. I paid 21 euros for that. The record in the store, brand new, was all close to it was $60, almost 3 times the price. Yeah.
And what are they giving you except on demand? Like, you're getting it that second. You know, record stores, like they're gonna. I think like Don was talking about this earlier. Like, I was asking about the gimmicks. Like, what do you do to create that drive into the store?
They create, you know what? Like that store I was at, they give you the experience of going to a record store, and it's almost like going to Disneyland for these people, for the kind of customers they got.
It's like a tourist. It's a tourist thing.
Yeah.
Wait, why did Jason wrote Rob Guacamole? Like, what the fuck is that comment?
That's you.
That's definitely not me. Continue. Sorry, he just wrote that shit out of the blue. What the fuck is that, right?
Get out.
The fuck is that, Jason? Rob Guacamole. What is it? I have to get out of here. I will say that
let's close out here. Let's bring it back, Groove.
Yeah, let's make Jose a little bit antsy and afraid of what we might say about him when he's gone.
So let's go around. Let's answer the question to the panel. Like, this is over 2 hours now. Are record stores necessary or relevant? John Bong.
yes.
Yes. Joel, Static ATX, are they relevant or necessary?
I think they're necessary. Sometimes they're relevant, but you know, the world is working against them. So,
damn. Stunty.
Neither. They're neither relevant or necessary, but they're very nice to have around.
You're saying like they're the Disney World of of vinyl. Groove Seeker, necessary or relevant?
Just for my own personal satisfaction, they're necessary. I think we'd be okay if they weren't relevant anymore.
damn. Some of this cold.
What? Buy Salo on Blu-ray. What is this shit, Jason?
This is
amazing.
And my answer to this, no, that's not it. We'll quote Rob Walker here: buying records with Stunty is romantic. So this discussion over 2 hours, it seems like the VC, as Joel said, it's a very 1%er of, people who buy records. But I think we are a bit nostalgic for the romance of what it used to inspire, which was going to the store, having a great, what is it, staff, and a person who would recommend records, I used to go to a record store called Memory Lane, and Big Al, if he was very sloshed, in the middle of his shift, he was the owner, then he would, you'd give him records, and the records were cheap. Otherwise, if you went there earlier, then he'd pull out a record guide from 2000 and try to price your record. No, that's messed up. So
that actually sounds pretty great. Like if you could get a price from like 2002, that's pretty great.
I know.
So you're basically saying that the main advantage of record stores depends on the intoxication of the clerks or owners.
At the time,
not
it did.
Good. At the time.
Wait,
And hence, that's my nostalgia of it.
by the way, this is a great movie. Have you ever seen Being There? It's just like so good.
Oh my God, Jose, give it up for it.
I have to go. Like this shit has to
So,
wrap up.
we're going to wrap up now. So I want to thank the panel, and I want to thank people in the chat for showing up.
Just Vinyl Vertigo made a really good point, I think.
Sure. This one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true.
I agree.
Remember, if Kyle Gass was the guy that masters every record, if he mastered it, it's delicious. You need it. That's the VC motto, right, Jason?
You're running on fumes now, Jose.
No, man.
Your jokes don't make even sense anymore.
So we're going to end it here. So thanks.
I don't have any more power on me. You have to like murder me right now. Like,
I want to thank the
please.
panel, and I want to thank everyone in the chat, and we will see you next time. Thank you all.
Good night, guys.
All right.
See ya.